It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. As we move into a Wednesday, I keep having to look at the clock up there and see what day it is because we worked that extra day over the weekend. And I'm like, what day is it? All day yesterday again. But coming in over the weekend to cover the breaking news. And then yesterday on the Tuesday morning show, there was breaking news for what was to be the ceasefire. It's off again, it's on again, it's on again, it's off again. Had my grandchildren been in the room when I was watching the president talk to the media as he's about to get on Marine One, they would have learned a new word.
Well, it was F word Tuesday.
It really was F word Tuesday
because Jasmine Crockett used it too.
That's right. I didn't
Jasmine
put that
Crockett,
together,
yeah.
but yes,
Jasmine Crockett used it.
By the way, it will not be F word Wednesday on Red Eye Radio. Just to be clear, it will be. Well, we can say F word, but it was so as it came together. Because you and I leave here and it's like, well, there is no ceasefire. When we left here after completing the Tuesday morning show. Because of, the missiles and attacks and whatnot. And when we left here, Israel was on their way to bomb Tehran. And then the president was, don't do it, all over social media. And I thought, wait a minute. He's got to be on the phone with Netanyahu. He's got to be, if he's putting this on Truth Social, he's got to be on the phone with Netanyahu. And when he was coming out to get on Marine One, hadn't even put his tie on yet. And he said, when I get, once I'm done with you, basically the media, then I'm going to make a phone call and tell them. But I wondered that conversation between him and Israeli officials. I, don't know all the details.
Netanyahu said it was fine.
Well, I know that it was. I know that it was because you can tell by the way their other officials put it on social media. Basically thanking President Trump and the U.S.'s involvement. And this again was after the whole dropping of the other bomb, the F-bomb. And I thought to myself, it's exactly playing out what I said recently, and that is. If you think you're in this camp or that camp when it comes to Donald Trump, there's only a Donald Trump camp, and in the end, he's going to make whatever decision is his decision. And then I read the take on from the Wall Street Journal, and they were saying on this whole thing, they were saying, look, there are very few that he trusts in the inner circle, very few, and this is his game. Basically, the brunt of the article. This is his game. And it's exactly what I said. If you've been observing this process, you and I talk about people projecting this isolationism onto him, and he's not an isolationist, but he's one that says, "I'll do a mission to get the job done. We're going to be precise. We're going to complete the mission, and then we're going to get out. We're not going to be in this long-running war." You and I thought that would be the case. And as of right now, is the case. And it appears that, at least when it comes to Israel, they understand he wants a ceasefire. And
well, when you look at the National Review had an article, I forgot who wrote it. It just popped when you said the Wall Street Journal article. I thought about the National Review article that was written that said there is no Trumpism. There is no. You got a bunch of people out there that. I'm MAGA, and this is what I believe, and this is what it is. And the next week it's like, well, that's what Trump doesn't believe that. And it's just like, it's, but that's the problem when you get into, again, not, labels can be correct, but then sometimes labels become labels become useless. Are you MAGA? I'm MAGA. Are you MAGA? What does that mean?
Yeah, right.
Do I agree with Trump all the time?
I'm more conservative than you are. I mean, we've heard it before.
Let's get into the specifics of it. I can tell you, and it's from looking at the issues, because that's what we are. We're issue people. To get into the labels all the time just can get downright to the point where you're not communicating the issues effectively. And for gosh sakes, we've been called everything in the book when you do it this long. Racist. I still don't know when somebody uses the term globalist what that actually means.
Well, in 2016, it went two different directions.
Yes, because you and I look at, well, globalist used to be this. Now it's become this. Mm-hmm. Because globalist used to mean a globalist is somebody who was pro-European Union. Right. That's really where it came, and that was where you give up as a country. You give up some of your autonomy to officials that aren't directly that aren't directly representatives of the people of your country.
Yeah,
and therefore you lose control. That's what globalism was. Then globalism has morphed into, well, do you have a protectionist attitude towards trade? Well, no, not really. You're a globalist. Well, that's actually not the original definition of globalist, but the same thing for the whole MAGA thing, and I'm fine with, look, people are going to hold their opinions, but you and I looked at it and said, where in the world did people think? And if you've been a long time listener to the show, we've said it. Where in the world did people ever, whether it's a Tucker Carlson, whether it's Bannon, whether it's MTG, in the world did they ever come up with the opinion that Trump was an isolationist?
Yeah, I don't get it. It's every time I think of it or hear it from one of them or anyone, I go through my brain and say, did I miss something? I mean, every single time. I know I didn't, but every time I go, wait a minute, hold on. Am I sure I didn't miss something? And the answer is always, no, I didn't miss anything. Because I can't explain where it comes from.
I do the same thing. It's just like, what did I miss? What did I miss on this? Did they not see what he did with Soleimani? I mean, Trump is doing on, in foreign relations and as commander-in-chief what I expect of him based on the things that he has said for years.
Yeah.
And isolationism, peace through strength, is not isolationism. There was a editorial about the president of Estonia when he's over in NATO, and there's a whole thing about, well, Trump is just so blunt and said, if you don't pay your way, why should we protect you? And he was like, well, he's right. Why should America pay our share of defending ourselves? When did it become, and so other countries can understand it easily. That doesn't, because you're saying, look, in fact, if you're over there saying, I want a strong NATO and we can be stronger if everybody does their fair share, is the opposite of isolationist, because you're saying, I want a community of countries that has the same type of Western, I won't say freedom of speech mindset, but basically are the Western countries that think differently than others, and we want to pool all our resources together to protect one another. You could make the case by you could make the case by how the definition of globalism has changed, that Trump is a globalist because he wants a strong NATO and he wants everybody to put it in, if you're going to change the definition of it.
Right. I mean, the way he's actually briefly explained it or added things to it along the way, were not added, but I mean, I guess given brief explanation is really the only way to say it. By saying we want them to stand on their own, that's the opposite of if you think about isolationism. We want these countries to be strong so that they can all, defend themselves, but also that the U.S. is stronger when we're an ally with them. You think about where we are with Europe, with what happened in Iran and the global response from Iran tells you that our allies look at this and go, yeah, Iran had this coming. When the attack from Israel first happened, it was like, oh, de-escalation, blah, 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 de-escalation, blah, 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 de-escalation. Well, everybody wants de-escalation. That's a given. You're just writing something. You're just making a statement to make a statement because it's obligatory. Let's talk about what actually happens in situations like this, and then what inevitably happens. Well, we played the audio from the BBC the other day. Listen, Iran has the reach. To many of the nations, Iran has the reach. They can't have a nuclear weapon. And that was the consensus. So if everybody else is stronger, doing their own part, it makes us all stronger against any enemy. And I think, he hasn't sat down and gone through that the way, I don't know, back in the day, Ronald Reagan would make a record. By the way, for all of those hipsters, we remember when Ronald Reagan was on vinyl. And we were making our own little flavored coffees, mostly with whiskey. But that's the approach. Did they read into that and say, oh, they're on their own? No, everybody wants all of our allies, all the other nations. By the way, all the smaller nations, third world nations, we want their economy to do better. We want their people to, not suffer. All of these things go into the same pot of stew that's been brewing for a long, long time, where the heavy lifting has been done by the United States. But that doesn't make Donald Trump an isolationist.
No, and if you look at what he has actually done, and for the most part said in these, because at times we have said, well, what he's done is different than what he has said. But when it comes to foreign policy, it's been pretty consistent across the board.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, it was, but I love when the headline, there is no Trumpism, there is no MAGA, it's what Trump wants to do today. And it's like all these people that are out there that say, this is what Trump is about. And it's like, well, you're projecting what you want onto Trump.
Yeah.
And he hasn't done that. And I find that fascinating. In a way, I also find it, I would say, really interesting that people need to project out what they think on somebody else. I'm not saying it's the same thing that we see. We see projection a lot from liberals.
Right. Yeah,
and a lot of their projection is when they call you a racist. You go, why do they do that? Why do they call us a racist when they do identity politics? Oh, they're racist.
Yep.
And you and I have always talked about, well, why are these people, they seem to have this incredible guilt. They're promoting reparations. It's like, oh, because they're racist and they know it and they feel guilty about it. There is white guilt out there. The majority of it comes from the Democratic Party. Mm-hmm. And the only reason you have white guilt is because you believe you've done something wrong.
Right.
And identity politics, as we've talked about, judging people by groups and not individuals, racism.
Yeah, it's
the radical transgender movement, the misogyny. Of course you feel guilty about all this. Of course.
Well, it's like with a number of things, especially during the second term so far, with President Trump. So many of them, so many folks are. I've made this example, this analogy. Basically, they believe they're more MAGA than anyone, to the point that they're in the wheelhouse driving the ship, they believe, and it's not the actual captain, Donald Trump, that they believe they're steering. It's almost, the mindset is almost like they're in control, they're in charge, they're always right, and everything else. And it's like the moment you engage in that, you're going to be proven wrong by Donald Trump himself. When I said at the end of it, the only people he really trusts are named Trump, that's actually playing out to be very true. I'm not wrong about that. And there's a reason.
And maybe Wiles.
Maybe. The second term isn't over yet.
I was going to say J.D.
Maybe.
Vance because he has let him out there a lot, but I don't know. I
can't
don't know if I
you,
can go that
like,
far.
right,
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, on the 100% meter, they're all named Trump, or at least at the moment married to a Trump. Had to throw in the at the moment asterisk there. Yeah. So that's just the way it is, and that's who
right.
he is.
So Tiger Woods isn't in yet.
Not yet, but he does play golf pretty well. I understand. That's a plus.
There's trust, just on golf.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to limit it to
on
that.
golf lessons.
Right. Yeah.
What the hell are you doing?
Yeah, he'll have security clearance when it comes to golf.
Mr. President, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Take the club more inside, for God's sakes. I trust you, Tiger.
Exactly.
866-90 Red Eye.
Hi there, this is Hope Zavara with Mother Trucker Yoga, and here's your health tip of the day. Healthy driver, healthy diesel, powered by House. Truck drivers are at high risk for carpal tunnel and grip issues from long hours at the wheel, leading to pain, stiffness, and weakness over time. Let's fix that right at the wheel. Using your steering wheel, stretch one finger at a time, starting from your thumb to your pinky. Hold each of those for 10 seconds. Then place all 4 fingers on the wheel and gently press and stretch your palm and wrist. Hold for another 10 seconds. Don't forget to do the other hand. Do this 2 to 3 times a day to keep your hands mobile, strong, and ready for action. There you go. Small, simple changes that can lead to big results so you can feel good again. Visit mothertruckeryoga.com and houseproducts.com for more tips and support.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Busy day yesterday, but we're going to take 2 different stories here after the bottom of the hour and try to analyze what's going on in this country when it comes to Democrats. And the 2 things would be the primary election in the primary mayoral election in New York City and juxtapose it to the fact that is the resistance dead on the federal level if you can't get the majority of Democrats for any reason to say impeach Trump?
Yeah. Right.
So where is the Democratic Party right now?
Right.
But they couldn't get, and I forgot who had the headline, the resistance is dead. The Democrats do not vote to impeach Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? You know something? When he came out and said, make my day. You want to impeach me? Go ahead. Make my day.
Yeah. Right.
Democrats, see what you did? Impeachment means nothing anymore.
Well, no, like we said, I think it was during the first impeachment, he's going to wear this like a Letterman jacket, not the scarlet letter.
It became a badge of honor.
Exactly.
5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here this morning. As always, download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. Here it is. Zoran Madani's win leaves New York City staring at the curse of interesting times. But I just love it when they start going, oh, Andrew Cuomo failed, and that humiliation should be enough to prompt him to drop out, even though he set up a ballot line that would let him fight on for the general election. Credit Mamdani, for running an energetic campaign with a forward-looking feel for charm and grace under fire. Pity those who vote for him, believed his false promises, and mistake his idealistic social media feed for real life. And blame Cuomo and the spineless Democratic Party machine for not really standing for anything at all and for relying on, we're your only hope, blackmail of the city's beleaguered business classes to gin up enough support to make it over the finish line. Cuomo ran on competence without ever actually having been that competent, a less crazed leader than Elliot Spitzer, a cannier, more cutthroat politician than David Patterson, and a more engaged executive than was George Pataki in his later years, but still only a good governor if judged by what a former president called the soft bigotry of low expectations. Oh, my gosh. Whichever Cuomo scandal most outraged you, the fact that he'd run out of steam even before being run out of office and could even summon much passion for this run at redemption. Instead, he basically bet that lining up every special interest behind him could do the trick. Forget any calculations as to the impact. The decent, honorable thing for him to do once his loss is official is to drop out of the fall race and out of public life. We remain convinced that Mayor Mamdani would be a disaster for New York City and believe a majority of voters will agree if he faces credible opposition in November. This is certainly an opportunity for Mayor Eric Adams, who right now is low in the polls thanks to his uneven first-term performance and a taint of corruption mainly created at the behest of the White House, furious that he called out some obvious failings of Biden, whom the nation now knows was unfit for office. Mayor Adams can come roaring off the mat. He's running as an independent. Or another candidate, such as GOP nominee Curtis Sliwa, can rally the city's silent majority behind a positive, credible vision for New York's future. And we can get into what will happen over the next few months. I remember a couple years ago in Buffalo where an absolute socialist won the primary.
Yeah, right, yeah. Yeah.
And was and they the city didn't elect her.
Right, yeah.
But it was an absolute zoo going, my God, you're talking about an absolute socialist. Donnie is an absolute communist.
Yeah.
He's just an absolute nutbag communist, but it shows you, and we've talked about this. Brandon Johnson in Chicago. Karen Bass in Los Angeles. The Democratic primary last night. It's not just, there's this narrative that the voter wants something else that is more moderate. And that's a fallacy.
Right. For all of those, and they're Democrats actually saying, we need to become more moderate as a party.
Right.
No, the voters are proving you wrong. They don't want that.
The most Democratic voters that you will find in places like Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York are putting absolute nutbags in the positions of power. And remember, who else won his primary last night in New York City? Alvin Bragg.
Yeah. After all is said and done, with all the, and remember, there were a few Democrats that even said, no, well, you went a little too far. He'll win again.
Yep. Understand that this is not just a few Democrats who hold these insane positions.
Nope.
A significant portion of Democrats, and I would dare say still the majority of Democrats, absolutely believe in things that are delusional and crazy.
And by the way, when the liberal activist media describes someone as a democratic socialist, when the liberal activist media puts socialists in there, they put democratic socialists like they did for Bernie. That translates into communism. But if you call someone a socialist and you're on the right, then you're a bigot. Remember that with Barack Obama back in the day.
Yeah.
And now he's a democratic socialist.
Yeah, because remember...
You mean communist?
Because...
Somebody wrote the story that the housing prices in New York are so bad, they're on the path to electing a socialist mayor. I don't know about the housing prices. They've always been high. The rent's too damn high. Remember that guy?
Oh, yeah, I remember.
And it's the party. I don't know if it's the one issue. I mean, that could be a driving issue in the mayoral race. I don't know. But the party is out in full force. And the party wants more and more socialism, more and more to the left. That's what they want.
Yeah. And you had, DeSantis was like, hey, business, come on down.
Yeah.
And I think it was Ted Cruz. Hey, if you're not a communist and you live in New York, come on down to Texas.
Yeah,
yeah,
right. Exactly.
I'm paraphrasing what he put on next. He was like, come on down to Texas. When you hear, the guy's a nutbag.
Mm-hmm.
Well, grocers are too high. So what we need are city-owned groceries.
Yeah.
We need to, it's not nationalized, but it's city-lize.
Right.
Let's city-lize supermarkets, because if government owns the supermarkets, we can do it better than the free market.
Yeah. My gosh, what a catastrophe.
I like this one woman was interviewed, and they said, why did you vote for him? And she said, oh, yeah, because, we don't want the regular Democrat establishment and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
We want something new. We want some new ideas. Well, he's a socialist. You believe socialism will work? No. It was like, what the hell?
But he's 33. That's a plus. I mean, seriously. And that's the other part of it. I wonder if Cuomo weren't, in that race, what it would have looked. If he might have gotten more votes if Cuomo weren't in, quite possibly. It's because honestly, everybody is looking for on the left. They're looking for the socialism. They're looking for these socialist ideas. Now, you say socialism to them, and they go, "Oh, no." It's just like when you say to anybody in the rank and file, "Hey, do you think we should do something about the national debt?" "Oh, yeah. Do you want to cut? Would you agree to have everything cut at 1%?" "Oh, no. We can't." And too many in the rank and file have become John Boehner. Not only we don't like Messi, but we also want the government to come in still and bail us out. We want the government to come in and, people are underwater still from record inflation for a generation in recent years. And in New York and California, these major blue cities, it's madness in terms of pricing.
I don't think there's even an argument that the best candidate for New York in November is Curtis Sliwa.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, the rest are nutcase Democrats.
Yeah, you mean in the binary? I thought you meant in like a primary situation.
No.
Yeah.
In the election, because they're all.
Yeah,
because Adams is running as an independent. Slee was running as the Republican in November. Yeah, I mean, but just on the ideas of where he stands that aren't insane, starting with law and order.
Well, again, it's.
I don't think he can win.
I don't think he can win. I don't know that Adams can pull it off.
Because I
don't know what happens.
We want something new. Well, do you believe socialism will work? No. But you're going to vote for the socialist. Yes, because it's something different.
Right.
Excuse me, not socialist, communist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you can legitimately call him a communist because of what he wants the government to do when it comes to, for example, the takeover of, grocery stores, have government-run grocery stores.
Right.
Good God. These people are just, but it's what the Democratic voter is.
Yep.
They're absolutely delusional.
Hey, listen, if the Democrats want to go down that road and have that little experiment, like we said to, I think it was California at the time, but other states tried it. You want to do your own single-payer system for a state or locale? Great. Go for it.
Do it.
Move along with your little experiment. See how it works for you.
Yeah. That's why we believe in federalism.
Yep.
We don't want the federal government being involved in everything, as we've said, with single-payer health care, nationalizing health care. The reason they want to do it is because they can borrow money.
Mm-hmm.
But in every single instance where they attempted to do it in a state, they backed off. Why?
Yeah.
You got to pay for the services now.
Right.
And Democrats are even, well, no. If we want we want Medicare for all, even though we can't do Medicare for some.
Right.
We can't do Medicare for some, and the some has been paying since they started working as teenagers the premiums for the health care.
Yes.
And we can't even cover that all.
And are still buying supplemental stuff. Think about that.
Well, yes,
you can't do part Medicare for some, and they want to do Medicare for all, or Medicaid, or whatever they want to use, whichever program they want to go down. But this is, again, as we say, a failed experiment over and over again. Remember in California, the one lawmaker who said, no, we got to put in a funding mechanism for this healthcare system we're going to do in the state, and got death threats.
Yeah. Yep. He's Democrat.
Yeah.
Death threats because it says, no, we need to have the funding mechanism. We just can't pass it without a funding mechanism.
Right.
And so that it all got blown up, but it got blown up in Vermont, got blown up in Colorado. It's like once people find out, I thought it was free. You're saying I've got to pay for it?
Right, yeah.
Well, come on. Things should just be free. Where's the money tree? I'm a Democrat, and I demand a money tree.
Well, the couple out of California, we supported Obamacare. We didn't know we were going to have to pay for it.
Again, what is that? A delusional mindset.
It is.
That things are just free and magically appear.
Yep.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So that was one thing that happened yesterday that I looked at and went, there you go. If you look in, and it's very important to look at where the Democratic voter stands right now and how radical they are and the people that they have elected, whether it is Los Angeles, Chicago, Karen Bass Johnson in Chicago, who's just an absolute nutcase. Sorry, he is. And so is she.
Yep.
And then the primary yesterday, you look at it, nope, the Democratic voter is voting for insanity. But then on the national level, there it is, James Freeman, Wall Street Journal. They don't even want to impeach him anymore.
Which is huge. And this is days after bombing Iran.
Right.
I mean, they would have impeached him for using the wrong word back in his first term. They impeached him on nothing twice.
Yeah.
He bombs Iran. Oh, no, we're not going to impeach him. This one story I saw related to that had a picture of Al Green, a Representative Al Green from the Houston, Texas area, and had a picture, and just, they use whatever picture that kind of fits the moment. And he just had this defeated look on his face. But it's, again, at least some in the party at the moment seem to realize, all right, you want to raise his political profile? Go ahead. They've got a lot of work to do on their own party. I think many of them in office right now realize this.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here. I can't... It was such poppy music that all day I've been walking around going, easy come and easy go. Bobby Sherman dying.
The word had gotten out that he had been battling cancer some time ago. And if you're of our age, you remember him being, just the teen idol of teen idols, right? It was, at that time. And then later became a police officer.
He, just when you think about it, a fascinating life. He never really sought out. He was at a party one time and sang happy birthday, and they said, do you have an agent? They got him an agent. Next thing you know, he's on TV. And he started out in TV first. He didn't start out as a singer first.
Right.
I think he had, 4 hit songs. Like 4, because he was all, and then on TV, I remember when it would be on, I remember he'd be there, and I just had no interest in Here Come the Brides when that show was on.
Yeah.
I didn't even know till a couple of weeks ago when somebody was talking about it. I had no idea that David Soul from Starsky and Hutch was on that show.
Huh.
I had no idea. I just never, I had no interest. I had no interest in it because, Hogan's Heroes was on. But
yeah, exactly.
But I have no idea whether there was a conflict between those two shows. That just popped into my mind. But he always talked about that he came from a very, very strict upbringing. And his family was all about public service. And it was when he first had kids, and he was still touring and doing stuff and everything else. And he just wanted to do something of substance. He wanted to help people. He didn't seek out to become a singer and a movie star as he was.
Yeah.
It just was sort of happened. And he was like, he said, I'd go on a concert and, I'd go sing and working 7 days a week and doing the thing that Billy Joel talked about one time. He was like, you're going through, and Peter Tork said the same thing.
Yeah.
Going through, you go through, you're in a hotel room, you run through the back entrance into the limousine. Then from the limousine, you get into another tunnel, and then you go through the tunnel, and next thing you know, you're on stage. And then you go back through the tunnel, you jump back into the limousine, you go back into the tunnel, the back exit of the hotel, you go up, and you're in your hotel room, and you're alone. And he talked about the fact that it was a job, and he made good money at it, but he just felt he wasn't of service to people.
Right.
And so he became a volunteer first. Became a volunteer, and then he actually became a member of the LAPD and an instructor. So he went from heartthrob to starting hearts.
Yeah, exactly.
But he was. I saw that they had a top 25 teen idols of all time. He was number 8.
Yeah.
But he was huge at that time. Just unbelievably huge, and just said, I think I'll do something else. He still would do occasional concerts and got together, but he was viewed. And I guess when he became a volunteer, or when he had great interest in it, the LAPD actually heard about it and came after him way back then.
Yeah.
And then by 1988, I believe he became like an instructor.
Yeah.
And was just well respected, but he was an official member of the LAPD. And, you think about it because, what's his name became from Leave It to Beaver. I can't think of his name. Eddie Haskell.
Oh, yeah.
Ken. I can't think of his last name. He became, he was a member of the LAPD. And Eric Estrada from Chips. Still, that was one of the greatest moments ever, getting to meet him on the plane.
Ken Osmond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Eric Estrada, when I met him last year on a plane last October. I get sitting there in the jet bridge, or right before we get on the jet bridge, this guy standing next to me, and I didn't even notice him I didn't even notice him. It's like, okay, we got to get on the plane here. I just look, I go, why is everybody looking at me? What are they doing here? This never happens to me.
Right.
Once in a while, someone will recognize my voice, but most people don't know what I look like. I'm like, why? I'm like, wait a minute. They're not looking at me. They're looking at the guy next to me. I go, wow, that looks like Punch from Chips.
Well, with these famous people, it was a lot different than Elvis getting his FBI badge from Nixon.
Yes.
It was the real deal. I mean, they were volunteering at the very least, and depending on which one it was, but they were doing important work.
Well, Eric Estrada wanted to be a cop.
Yeah.
One of the reasons he took, and he told me, he said, when we had a great conversation that went on for a couple of hours, and he just said, the reason I became an actor was to take care of my mom.
Yeah.
But my heart was always in law enforcement.
Right.
You think about that, that was all really around the same 10-year period. You're just like, wow.
Yeah.
Because Eric Estrada was there. You think about it at that point, from the late 70s to early 80s, when he was on Chips, he was probably considered one of the biggest sex symbols in America.
Oh, he was everywhere.
Yeah.
His face was everywhere.
Yeah. And it was like, that's, that's what it was, but that's not why I wanted to be in law enforcement. And you're like, that's so awesome that these people who became, you get the adulation, you get you become an idol to some of these, these people when you become a teen star, especially to women, and it's like everything is yours, and they're like, nah, my real interest is public service in law enforcement. It's like, what the?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's so great when you hear stuff like that. So.
I mean, Estrada was so big, I remember asking my mom one time, I said, where are you going, Mom? To the grocery store. Oh, going to get some stuff to eat, huh? She goes, no, I want to see pictures of Eric Estrada. Because it was on every magazine.
Oh, I know, yeah.
Every magazine, everywhere.
So I can still see those magazines, when you go to the local, the five and dime store around the corner where we get our candy, and I can't remember the name. I don't even know. I never bought one.
Yeah,
but I can still. You can just see Eric Estrada's face on there, and Ken Osmond wasn't really a sex symbol. He was. He was a celebrity, but Bobby Sherman, you could see his face. It was basically Bobby Sherman and Keith Partridge.
Yeah, I mean,
David Cassidy,
right? And his brother Sean Cassidy.
Oh,
for a minute.
Yeah. Then Sean. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The old teen idols thing. Yeah, it's never happened to me that someone comes up after singing Happy Birthday and says, man, you're so good looking and talented, you should have an agent. Never happened. Not even once.
No?
Nope.
Oh, it happens.
I know it's shocking.
Happens to me all the time.
I know it's shocking, but no. No. Yeah, it's but it's interesting to see how many, in I don't know, the pop world and pop culture also worked in law enforcement. At one time or another. And I think that says a lot about the person. But Bobby Sherman passed away. Mick Rouse, the founding member of Bad Company. And Mott the Hoople.
And did you see that online? They had the picture of the other guy in Bad Company. They had the wrong guy.
Oh, yeah.
Wrong picture.
Yeah. It's and I mean, in terms of rock, Bad Company's been a mainstay for forever, since they came about.
Yeah. It wasn't Paul Rogers. It was, I forgot which one it was.
One of the other members.
It was one of the other members.
Yeah.
It started to be Simon Kirk or Boz Burrell.
Yeah.
But that's. We're getting old.
Yeah, we are. Well, no, I mean, I thought about it yesterday, quite honestly, and it was, I'm at the age, it used to be, hey, is that person still putting out albums anymore? And then it was, hey, is that person still touring anymore? And then it slowly becomes, hey, is that person still alive anymore? I mean, you just get to that point, because who was it? Somebody else that posted their birthday the other day, a celebrity birthday, and they're 80. And I thought, because we see the images from back in the day, from their heyday.
Yeah.
I saw the image. It was a picture or a short video. I can't remember. But it was Al Pacino meeting the new Pope. I mean, it was fantastic. It was great. He gave me a full pardon. I don't know if that's how it works. But he had not colored his hair. And Al's, 85, 86, somewhere in there, and his hair was completely white. His beard was completely white. And I thought to myself, in your mind, you're thinking Michael from The Godfather.
Because The Godfather's on every 5 minutes.
Right. Those
So
are the
you
images
see those
that you
images,
see over and over again. And then back in the day, for musical artists, at one time, Billy Joel had hair. So you think of those album covers or those videos or whatever it might be, and you remember them for their heyday, and then you see a video of them, somebody puts something on YouTube, oh, here's so-and-so, still performing at 82, and I thought, oh, he looks very different, and here's what happened to me the other day. I'm going through the store, and I noticed that there's a lot of men in my age group in the store, and it's the middle of the day. And I'm thinking, wow, what are all these guys in my age group doing out in the middle of the day? Oh, they're probably retired. Then I made a sad face and walked to my truck. But no, I mean, it's part of getting older, I mean, you and I are out in the middle of the day because we work nights. But and it just hit me. Oh, they're probably out in the middle of the day because they're retired. And that's, it's just, that aging thing. And I'm thinking to myself, well, no, I need to hear more music from this artist or I need to see more work from, that actor or whatever it is. And yeah, quite unfortunately.
For me, it's, and I hope to golf more because I've been going to the driving range with my great nephew and I've been seeing him every couple of weeks because I'm hitting the ball great. But I always get that when I'm like, God, these old codgers, I wish they'd get moving.
Yeah.
Come on, let's move.
Maybe they need help.
And I'm golfing with them. I go, if you're this age and you can't handle it, get off the tee.
Come
You know,
on.
go play putt-putt, whatever.
Right.
And then they're talking, well, you know, next year I turn 60. I'm like, oh, my God,
Oh, no.
I'm way older than them.
Well, no, I'm only 59, but I was walking to my truck the other day. I saw this reflection. I saw this other guy walking toward my truck. And I'm like, oh, what's this guy want? What does this old man want with me? Is this about to be on? And then it turned out it was my reflection. I'm getting to the age where I'm going to start arguing with my own reflection.
Oh, one more thing.
Yeah.
Did you see where arguably one of the best bassists of all time has refused to be there for her inauguration into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Oh, Carol
Kay said,
well, look,
because she objects. I never knew this. She objects to the term the Wrecking Crew. And for people that don't know, the Wrecking Crew was a group of musicians. Tommy Tedesco, Carol Kay, Hal Blaine. Glenn Campbell was a part of it. Plus a bunch of, I'm just mentioning a few of them, a bunch of them that made a significant portion of the music that you heard in the 60s and 70s. It was all the Wrecking Crew. They actually, Wrecking Crew would do songs. They'd find a band that then would go out live to play the songs that the Wrecking Crew were actually doing.
Right.
And so, but she didn't like, and so they were called the Wrecking Crew because they did everything. She doesn't like the name Wrecking Crew.
Well, and she didn't like the way that it just isolated just that smaller group, relatively smaller group of studio musicians. She said, look, there are countless great studio musicians, and it shouldn't be isolated to, that small group. There are many of us, and so I don't think it represents,
right,
what my goal is or what the community of studio musicians actually is. And by the way, there are a number of unbelievably great musicians. In modern times, I'd throw in Phil X from Bon Jovi, all these guitarists.
Steve Lukather from Toto.
Yeah. Oh, all the guys in Toto. Yeah. I mean, just think about it. Yeah.
He's on so much. And for people that don't know, because we had talked about this last week when Brian Wilson died, that it was probably from Pet Sounds on, everything. First couple of albums the Beach Boys actually recorded. Then the Wrecking Crew came in. All the background stuff that you hear, except for the vocals,
right,
is not the Beach Boys.
Right.
It's the Beach Boys singing. It's the Wrecking Crew playing behind them.
Right. And they are extremely talented. Because in that gig, you can't make mistakes. Tim Pierce is another one. And who played on the first Bon Jovi album. I mean, all of these great musicians who are extremely talented. And I thought it was an interesting take from Carol Kay. I really did. And speaking of extremely talented, I don't know anybody that can play the bass like her quite the way she does.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
After fuel, an owner-operator's second biggest variable cost is tires. To save, get as much life out of them as possible with good habits. Maintain proper inflation. It's free and easy, yet it's the highest saving maintenance you can perform on the truck. Improper inflation is by far the greatest reason tires fail early. Perform routine maintenance. If a technician can by hand initiate irregular movements in tie rod ends, kingpins, wheel bearings, and torque rods, that spells trouble. Fight irregular wear by replacing suspension components. On the steer axle, change your shocks at least as often as you change your tires. On the drive axle, replace shocks halfway through the tire's life, and when the tires are changed too. Finally, employ good driving habits. You have full control here. More conservative driving over rough surfaces helps reduce wear. Speeding, hard braking, curbing, and tight turns cause tires to wear fast. On the other hand, steady acceleration, braking, and steering can extend the life, saving a bundle. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section on the website for more details on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Harley Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up following the bottom of the hour, Iran leaks from intelligence services. You know, the one thing that really wasn't talked about a lot, some of the news services said they had 3 sources from inside the intelligence community telling them what the initial assessment was. How much of it's true, I don't know. You and I don't trust anything when it comes to source stories these days.
Yeah.
But if it's true that there were 3 out there, that means Trump still has a huge problem in the intelligence community.
Yep.
There's a ton of rot still inside our intelligence communities. If these stories are true, that you had 3 different people leak stuff that's top secret.
Right.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Oh, wow. The whole, everything involving Iran yesterday was just a zoo.
It really was.
You know, the whole impeachment here. This was from Politico. Representative Al Green's impeachment resolution was tabled on a 344 to 79 votes, with 128 Democrats joining 216 Republicans to kill the measure. Green introduced the measure, lambasting Trump for striking Iran without congressional approval Tuesday, and used a fast-track process to force a quick vote. GOP leaders moved first with the motion to table. Some Democrats, most prominently, New York Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, called for Trump's impeachment in the aftermath of the strike, though there's little appetite in the rest of the caucus for impeachment. Michigan Representative Thanadar yanked a prior impeachment measure he sponsored last month before it even came up for a vote after facing fierce blowback in the caucus. House torpedoes Representative Al Green's effort to impeach Trump over Iran strikes is the headline from thehill.com, where the editors opted against an aerial bombardment metaphor. But whatever the metaphorical method of attack, Mr. Trump may love the smell of a bogus political claim getting napalmed in the morning. It smells like victory. That's from National Review. If Democrats had gone ahead with the third impeachment effort, they would have been on very shaky ground, but perhaps with better legal and constitutional arguments than the ones that they used in their 2 failed previous attempts to secure a Senate conviction. No, they didn't. I disagree with that. No, they didn't.
Yeah.
You know, I heard so much yesterday. I heard, for example, on The View, who was it on The View? Jonathan Karl. Jonathan Karl doesn't understand. They keep going back to the War Powers Act as if the War Powers Act dictates to a president what a president must do.
Right.
It doesn't. I mean, it does, but there is no
It has no authority.
There is no authority in the War Powers Act.
Right.
Every executive branch that has come in, even if they have said, we will follow it in order to appease you, but we don't believe that we are constitutionally obligated to follow the War Powers Act that Congress put in the 70s. And there's a simple reason. And once you explain it, this is the thing that really, this gets me the most, is how many people in the media are completely ignorant of how the country works. Congress cannot tell the President of the United States what his authority is over over being the commander-in-chief. They can't do it. The only way you can change the power of the president is through a constitutional amendment. Once you explain that to people, they go, oh, yeah. But all I heard on The View, and even Jonathan Karl, or the War Powers Act, well, the fact is other presidents haven't followed it, as if the only reason that Trump shouldn't be booted out of office is because everybody else should have been booted out of office, and that's not the legal point.
Right.
The legal point is the War Powers Act doesn't have any constitutional teeth in it because it's not a constitutional amendment. Congress just can't say you don't have this authority.
Nope. If you want to do an amendment, good luck. That's the only way it would have authority if that amendment were to go into effect. And but it's, you said how many on the left in the leftist media understand how it all works. I would start with them too. Name the 3 branches of government.
You can look at a president's authority, for example, when it comes to executive orders. Those are always challenged. Somebody will challenge it. The courts, all the way up to the Supreme Court, no, constitutionally you can't do this.
Right.
But when it comes to his power, power of protecting the country as commander in chief, that's where the courts even don't dare to go.
Right.
The Supreme Court, most Supreme Courts won't go there because they're like, it's too broad. You have to give parameters to the President of the United States because somebody has to have the ability to immediately strike back. You cannot do that by consensus. The Founding Fathers knew that. There wasn't like, okay, the missiles are on the way. Let's have a session of Congress tomorrow to discuss this.
Yeah, we'll have a floor debate for 2 days.
Right.
A debate in the media for another 3 days. We'll go on our Independence Day vacation, and when we come back in August, we'll talk about it.
Right. Even in Independence Day, since you mentioned 4th of July,
that's
remember
right.
It was a 4th of July weekend.
Yeah.
The president had the ability to order the attack on the aliens without the approval of Congress.
Bill Pullman, by the way, says that people will come up and want him to do his presidential speech from Independence Day.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, they do this, and it's really great. It's very kind, but I don't remember it. Then they start citing it themselves. He's like, I don't remember all of my lines, from every movie. But it is one of those great speeches.
I think he was quite authoritarian in there, assuming that as president, where was Congress in all of this?
Exactly.
Oh, wait a minute.
Kings, Bill Pullman.
Wait a minute. I forgot.
There were aliens.
No, I forgot. Congress was all dead.
Oh, that's right.
Remember?
News strike on. That's right.
Right,
because it started.
Yeah,
actually, that's where.
Right.
Oh,
the only one that got out alive was the president.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Oh,
even his aides didn't get out. Remember, because that second helicopter got blown up.
Right.
The fact that I remember details like that of Independence Day. But it was remember, that was a huge movie event when that came out in the mid-90s.
It was massive. Yeah, it was massive. Huge. Yeah. No Kings.
That and Apollo 13 and Forrest Gump in the mid-90s. Those were the those are the 3 monsters.
Yeah. Probably defining of that era. I mean, those were just monster movies. Huge movies.
So my legal argument is completely gone, because you couldn't impeach Bill Pullman because Congress was all dead. The aliens had killed them. And the same thing for Mars attacks.
Then he was a king.
Bill Pullman was a king.
He was a dictator. It's, when again, they go down this road over and over again, especially with Trump. But we see a couple of people on the right. You can't do this. You can't do this. You can't do this.
Yeah, he can.
Actually, he can.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, all right, to what end? I know where the liberals are going. But on the right, to what end? Where are you going? Where are you going with this?
We live in a instantaneous gotcha victory narrative.
Yeah.
You saw it yesterday.
Yeah.
With the leak, and you had said something in the beginning of the show, the leak from the intelligence agencies, that they could be up in a couple of months, but low level credibility to the to it. but everybody jumped on it as if Trump had failed and therefore it was wrong. And
Right.
you just said, well, no, they're going to look and see what's there. And if they haven't destroyed it, they've already said we're going to go back and destroy it again.
Right. Well,
if it
and
needs
that-
more,
and
we're
that's
going to do it. And that's really it. It didn't to sit there and say, because the instant reaction they wanted was that Trump has failed miserably here because of this report, which and therefore it was wrong, which is like, well, no, they've already said if the damage isn't there. And then you've got other organizations, in fact, private organizations coming out and looking at the film and saying, no, there's considerable damage, here, but they'll figure it out. And Trump has made it clear they're not going to get a nuclear weapon. The effort of what he is attempting to do is the correct one, and he's handled it in a great way.
And with the liberal activist media, if they want to believe Iran is still a danger, let them believe it. Okay. All right. Because I don't trust Iran either. We're not on the same page, but if that builds distrust on the left by them thinking, well, they didn't get the job done, okay, then we shouldn't trust Iran. You're right.
Well, I did see that Joy Reid, I don't know when, but I saw the headline. Joy Reid said, well, maybe it would be a good thing if Iran had nuclear weapons.
I was waiting for that.
I just saw the headline. I don't know if
we'll have
she
to
must
go back and double check that.
I think she probably said it in the interview where she was trying to tell people why she was let go from MSNBC.
Okay. Yeah.
Because you're a raving lunatic?
Yeah, right.
I mean,
Even by their standards.
even by the left standards.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I thought it was really interesting because I thought a huge story of the day was the comparison of what was going on in New York in the primary with a communist winning, an absolute communist. And remember, he also is really big. If he gets in there, they're going to have many more social workers instead of police officers.
Oh yeah.
He also believes in that one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like you almost get the worst of the summer of 2020, the absolute nutbag, Chad Chop type of mentality.
Yep.
And it's like, that's what New York needs.
Yep.
Along with a fiscal communist. I like that, a fiscal communist.
Again, let them do their own little experiment. Congratulations, New York. If that's how it goes, then so be it. Your choice.
Yeah?
When business decides we really can't afford to stay any longer, and people more and more decide we're not going to stay any longer, and crime is through the roof, and there are no real solutions because, of course, the city can't pay for it all,
No.
then maybe you'll learn, or maybe you won't. Maybe you'll go on to pick another socialist when he's done.
Let's hear DeSantis in Florida talking about it. This
All
is
right.
before the primary results were in, and it was if this guy wins. Here we go.
If this socialist mayor candidate wins in New York City, you're going to see real estate values skyrocket even more in Palm Beach because people are going to get out of that city. As bad as de Blasio was, this guy is like going to be way, way worse. He doesn't think that you should have law enforcement in dangerous parts of the city, that you should send in social workers. See how that works out for you. It ain't going to work out well. So, they've made a lot of really dumb decisions, and we've benefited from it. But
He's not wrong.
Ted Cruz said, wow, if you're not a communist, if you're live in New York and you're not a communist, come to Texas.
No, that's it. I mean, how many people retirees have been moving to Florida from New York forever? I mean, they made several Seinfeld episodes out of it. So now add to it all the problems that would, of course, be in play if he is to become mayor, and it'll skyrocket.
And to let the people of New York know, just to let you know, Delta 9 and Delta 8 are still legal.
Yes.
That's the weed.
That's what you're into.
It's
Come on down.
Governor Abbott vetoed that bill that would have made all THC products
it's
in
interesting.
Texas illegal.
It's interesting to see, or I'm I'm really interested to see what will happen in whatever special session they bring about what the Governor Abbott, as opposed to the lieutenant governor, they're not on the same page, actually might get done on that.
866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So, yeah, interesting day where you've got on one hand in America's largest cities, the insane liberalism is right there with the people that they elect. You saw it in New York City last night. Now, it's only the primary. We'll see what happens in the general election. But with Johnson in Chicago and Bass in L.A., I mean, it's nut job time in the major cities right now. And they don't seem to care. They just the voter doesn't seem to care. But on the other level, when you have 128 Democrats that voted not to impeach Donald Trump, if you just had the vote in the back a few years ago, if Trump crossed the street, if he jaywalked, they would want to impeach him. But here it's like, okay. One of the couple of headlines is the resistance dead.
Oh, I think you have to ask that question because they've got to build the future of the party. They got to look beyond Trump now. Interesting.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Hi. Thank you for being here.
Happy Wednesday.
I know we played this yesterday. I want to play it again, though. Jonathan Turley talking about the impeachment effort by Democrats, AOC, Al Green, whatever. Here we go.
Right. Well, you have to feel for AOC. You're all dressed up for an impeachment and peace breaks out. It's sort of a Marissa Tomei moment from My Cousin Vinny. What a nightmare. And the problem is that it doesn't make for a very good impeachment, and that's why she was struggling. The other problem is that if this is impeachable, you could impeach a good number of presidents going back to Thomas Jefferson, who moved against the Barbary Pirates. You would also include Bill Clinton and Barack Obama. I mean, Obama in 2016 alone dropped over 26,000 bombs on countries ranging from Somalia to Syria to Afghanistan to Iraq. There was no suggestion by Democrats that they had to immediately impeach Barack Obama.
I'm trying to think, do Democrats have any, are they making any arguments without either lying or not looking at what their own party has done? A double standard. Here's one. Here's a lie. Let's go to this one. This is Jasmine Crockett. This is not her using the F-bomb yesterday.
Yeah, okay.
But it's her talking about, why do people believe that Trump is, not anti-Semitic? You ready for this?
Okay.
Here we go.
All right.
Let's listen to her justification. Why do people believe? Why is he the one standing up for the Jewish people? Right? Here we go.
Right.
But how does the man currently occupying the Oval Office choose to lead by example within the context of anti-Semitism? It's Trump who again invited Nick Fuentes. It's holding a press conference to say that there, quote, were some very fine people on both sides.
There you go.
The lie that's, again, they're still using. I said it the other day. They're still using the Charlottesville lie.
Yep.
And there's further proof. So it's as recent as yesterday. Still using the Charlottesville lie. And I don't know that, again, they feel the need to go find the truth, or whether she herself, Crockett, actually knows the truth. And by the way, if you don't know the truth, that's on you too. Lying over and over again. And they've done this on a number of fronts, which is why yesterday, I'm with you. I don't believe any of it. You know what I mean? The whole thing of what may have happened, what did happen, where Iran is on their nukes, or what's in play. I can tell you for sure one thing: I don't know. And the thing is with the media, I mean, I know who the liars are. I know that the media has told lies and repeated lies for the longest time. I know who the liars are. But in terms of what the truth is in the moment, I don't trust anything. I don't trust anything. And the liberal activist media, you know.
Well, they've earned your non-trust.
Well, exactly. And when Trump yesterday, right before he dropped the other bomb, the F-bomb, with the media on his way out to Marine One, he was going after CNN, MSNBC, or as he calls it, MSDNC, and all that. And he did the same during the gaggle a little while later on Air Force One, on his way to the NATO summit. And, you know, he makes the point, but there is a reason, you know, I mean, he's not going to get into it on the details on that. He's right. There's zero trust I put in them. But the public, the reason that they have lost, the reason nobody is watching them, the reason they have eroded down to zero, nothing, is that they tell lies over and over again. And if you think that, you know, that someone is going to debate you on that level, you know, in terms of viewers, well, they're just going to call you out on it. No, they're going to move on. Your audience is just going to go away. That's how it works with 99.9% of your audience. They're not going to call you out on it. They're going to, if they don't trust you, they're gone. That's the way it works. And I thought to myself, you know, he's right. But you get in further to the, you know, into the weeds on that, and it's about the lies that they keep telling. And they don't challenge someone like a Jasmine Crockett. They're not going to, you know, if they had her on an interview, she had said that, you know, in an interview setting where someone was going to, who's going to challenge her on that unless it's Fox News or, you know, it's just not, no one wants to have that conversation. They just shake their head yes and keep going. Well, thankfully, I'm grateful, I'm hopeful that the American public, I think maybe even the global public, you can make the case that the global public even is more insistent on finding the truth, or at least, at the very least, taking advantage of what they have available to them to get the truth. You and I have said it for a long time. Elon Musk said, you are the media now. And we've been saying it in a different way for years, in that you can find the truth. You can do your own fact-checking. All due respect to Glenn Kessler over at the Washington Post. But in terms of the fact-checking, everybody has that ability to do it. It just takes the will. And more people are clearly doing it. To what extent, I can't measure that. I don't have the numbers in front of me. But it's clear it is a growing trend of people finding the truth. Because if you think about it, it makes sense. Now, some people, like your dad has always said, still want to be BS'd. they still want to buy the lie. I don't know why. They still want to buy whatever lie it might be. They want to buy into it and not rock the boat. But you're seeing the trend with more and more the public looking at it going, is that true? They become curious, right? Because they don't trust anything. But I think a big part of that is people posting stuff on social media saying, so-and-so did this. And then they're like, did that actually happen? Did that actually happen? Then when the legacy media does that, they're like, okay, did that actually happen? Did that actually happen? There is this trend of people becoming more and more curious, and there's evidence of that. Now, how that applies in the future politically, I can't tell you, but I think to some degree it did apply in 24.
I think what happened yesterday, I found as a perfect example of why people don't trust the media, because the president has made it clear from the very beginning here he didn't want Iran to have nuclear missiles. He made that. He's been saying that for 20 years?
Yeah, probably.
And so there's nothing new there at all. We're surprised that some of his former closest surrogates didn't know where he stands and that he's not an isolationist. Mm-hmm. That surprises us. You would have to ask them why they believe that they are the true MAGA.
Right.
But when I saw yesterday, because Trump had made it clear, we're going to go in. Preliminary reports say we got him good. And some preliminary reports, they're saying that the administration's saying that the sourced reports that the media was promoting yesterday from 3 different sources, by the way, whoever leaked those, if they find out, should be prosecuted because you're not supposed to be doing that.
Right.
But again, it was low-level confidence from the initial reports, and the initial report said, well, they might have only been pushed back for only a few months, 6 months or whatever. I don't care. I didn't care because Trump said, we're going to go in, we're going to analyze it. If we didn't get him, we'll go in and get him again. That's all I need to hear. And I'm seeing more now experts from the private sector now say, no, there was significant damage. But it was the media and their insistence to what I call immediate. I came up with a phrase before. It's an immediate negative narrative that is the conclusion to the story.
Yeah,
when they came out
right.
and when they came out and said, well, Trump did this and this source report says, and we know it has low confidence, but it says they might have only been moved back a few months. Okay, fine. Then Trump said he would.
Right.
But the conclusion was, so this is a failure, so the whole thing's been a failure.
Right.
Like in war,
exactly.
Like in war, if you attack, if there's one battle and you haven't overwhelmingly won that battle, then the war is over.
Well,
then somehow you've lost the war.
Right.
They're not saying it, but they're implying it with the sense of urgency that this thing has failed.
Well, it's like they put up a banner, Trump shall not get a victory.
Yeah.
That's their goal.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have Trump getting a victory out of this.
I think that's a better way of putting it than I did.
It's because what you want to do is rob him of that victory. If you're on the left, if you oppose him,
right.
And I don't care where you are, where you work, if you oppose him, then you cannot have him getting a victory on this.
But the victory is not, the defeat is not based on, at that moment of one attack, whether it was 100% successful,
right,
or 35% successful.
Yeah, 2 months or 2 decades setback. We don't know.
Right. I don't know what it's going to be. The goal is to move it back, and he's made it clear if it's not moved back enough, we go back in and do it again.
Right.
So if we find out that they're able to redo it and Trump will do nothing, then Trump will be held accountable for it down the road. But you're not at that point yet, and he hasn't indicated that he's at that point yet of not doing anything anymore if we find out they're still producing again and ramping up their nuclear weapons program, because he already said, well, if that happens, if they do try to do it, we're going to go in and get them again.
Mm-hmm.
So the point is, and I think you made the way you phrased it was the greatest. They just have to deny him a victory.
Yes. That was the whole goal yesterday, I thought. We can't let him get, because it was on two fronts. They thought they had a win on the no ceasefire thing. That, see, he didn't, the ceasefire didn't work. He loses there. And then later in the morning, apparently Trump, makes the call to Israel, and you're back on. And then it became the source story, and it was clear to me, he shall not get the victory.
Yeah.
Put it out there, the source story, whatever it's going to be. Well, only time. By the way, I said to you in the pre-show meeting, I said, okay, if the liberal activist media and the left says that Iran, basically what are they saying from that? They're saying Iran is still a threat. Good. Then both sides distrust Iran, and that's what we should be doing anyway, because if they came in and there was a 100% consensus, oh, no, it will be a minimum of 20 years, I would still say I don't trust Iran. So now everybody's on board with not trusting Iran. They're still a threat. Thank you.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I want to play this audio cut. Former counsel to the Democrats, Julian Epstein, a Democrat himself, about the entire Iran thing. And he's a lifelong Democrat. He's saying these are the things that lifelong Democrats, I guess old school Democrats, are asking.
A lot of sort of Democrats, people like Bill Ackman and others who have been historic Democrats, I might be in this category, were scratching their heads tonight and saying, why are we still Democrats? How is it that the Democratic Party cannot be in full scale getting behind something so important and such an important a moment as this? And this should be if this peace agreement holds, it should be a time for national celebration. It certainly will be that in Israel, and for all peace-loving people, even for progressives who supposedly hate the oppression regimes. And, there is no more oppressive regime on the planet Earth than Iran. They are the neo-Nazis of the modern age.
No, you're wrong. Trump is.
Yeah, didn't you get the memo?
As a Democrat, didn't you get that memo?
Right.
And and so that's that's what we're dealing with. That's what we're dealing with right now.
Yeah.
And it's up is down, black is white.
Well, think about it.
Forward is backwards.
First Trump term, he was thinking he might do something. Oh, we have to impeach him. Second Trump term, he bombed Iran. Yeah, we're not going to impeach him. I think what they want, they want to eat their cake and have it too, which I learned after the Unabomber thing that I watched the other day. That's actually the correct phrasing. They want him to be around, right? They don't want, first of all, to make another political martyr out of him, because they've done that how many times? So that's the big thing. But then beyond that, they don't want to remove him from office. They want the erosion between now and 28 to happen so they can win the White House again in 28. They need the big bad around. They need him to make his own mistakes politically. And they also know that it doesn't work for them politically at all to go into, well, first of all, they don't have Liz Cheney anymore. But they really don't. If you think about it, what should be the focus for the Democrats? Just like the GOP, midterm, number one, and then beyond that, 28. And they've got, thanks to the GOP, there is a real chance that they could take the House and or the Senate. I don't know what that looks like. It depends on what happens between now and November of next year. But the midterm right now is not a given for the GOP. And you have to focus on things that are going to work for you politically. Yeah, they can be radical. You don't make a martyr out of him because you don't want a 24 repeat.
Look at this here. Dean Phillips, remember, ran for president against Biden, as a Democrat. I just love this because these are all people that are lifelong Democrats asking the question, but hey, it's Democrats that voted in the primary. As the presumed next mayor has promised, New York City is about to become more affordable, but not because of socialism, because of capitalism. Housing is a function of supply and demand is about to drop like a brick. Whoa.
Wow. Yeah.
That's a Democrat talking supply and demand and capitalism. Wow.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. So, looking at the first, what are we? We had 5 months yet of the Trump administration?
Yeah, we just passed 5 months 5 days ago. So, yeah.
This is, Trump had when you look, and we talked about this yesterday, that on the two major issues, Iran and also immigration, Trump has delivered.
Yeah.
You've got, even Democrats are admitting, they go, yeah, okay, yeah, duh. We didn't need comprehensive immigration reform. It was in Congress. Biden has been completely discredited across the board.
Right. Yeah.
Just completely discredited across the board. Everybody knows it. That's why nobody wants to talk about him. That's why the Democrats are saying, this is like an impeachment thing going after Biden now. No, they want to find out who used the auto pen, and so does the majority of Americans. They want to find out whether the last president actually wasn't leading the country.
Right.
That the person that many of them even voted for wasn't actually leading the country.
Right.
But you see... I saw the CBS poll that was talking about when it comes to Iran, how many want them not to have a nuclear weapon. Only 17% want, 17% of Americans. And that's the absolute delusional liberals out there. Only 17% want them to have a nuclear bomb.
Right.
Americans don't. And I did see it where, you've got Republicans completely in favor of it. In fact, MAGA Republicans were through the roof. I got to go find Mark Levin's post yesterday.
He's been at war.
Yeah, and it was the CBS poll, U.S. airstrikes on Iran nuclear facilities approve. All Republicans, 85%, disapprove 15%. MAGA Republicans, 94%, disapprove 6%. Can you define MAGA Republicans?
Right, yeah.
Today, on June 25th, 2025. I'm not saying last week or the week before that. Can you define exactly what a MAGA Republican is right now.
Yeah,
but
I can't.
But when asked that question, 94% approve of the strikes, 6% disapprove. Mark Levin writes.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody doesn't know, there's a huge war going on between him and Tucker Carlson,
Yeah.
Marjorie Taylor Greene,
Yeah.
and he's going crazy at them. He goes, but 94% of MAGA Republicans approve of our military strikes on Iran's nuke facilities. That means Chatsworth Qatarlson, spelling it Qatar instead of
Oh, yeah. Okay, I see.
Chatsworth Qatarlson, Pardon Bannon, Marjorie Traitor Greenie, and he puts Greenie with the capital E at the end because she had accused him the other day, you didn't even spell my name right when he went after her. No Pants Gates,
Well,
and their isolationist ilk represent nobody. Wolves howling at the moon.
Yeah.
Like I said, the number of articles written yesterday, there is no Trumpism.
No.
You know, there may be what Trump wants to do today and what Trump believes, but for anybody to sit there and project out and say, I'm more MAGA than you, doesn't exist.
No.
Because the only MAGA comes from what Trump is actually, and not always necessarily saying, but what he actually does.
Right.
But on this thing, on Iran, completely consistent. On illegal immigration, completely consistent, 95% consistent. He did get a little pushback a couple of weeks ago when he came out and said, well, if you've been here for a long time, we're going to have to figure out what to do. If you've been here illegally a long time, we can't hurt our farmers. We can't hurt, you know.
Right. Yeah.
He talked about the people they couldn't hurt. And, you know, for example, the Stephen Miller could not have been happy with those comments.
Guessing not.
I'm guessing he wouldn't be on that. But as we've said, instead of getting involved in the labels of MAGA, we said this earlier, we never do that. We're issue people. People ask where we are, you know, where do you guys stand? We go, okay, we took the libertarian test one time like 15 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you were like, what was it, 85 to 90% libertarian, and I was like 75 to 80%, something like that.
Yeah, I was just short of full-on anarchist.
Hey, you could run for mayor of New York.
Nomad.
And
on my own.
But we have
a loner.
But we have said, you know, call us whatever you, because people call us
the labels, because I don't know what the label means to them.
Yeah.
I don't know what their definition is, and they don't really know, apparently, don't get my definition of any of it.
Yeah, because we've gotten that before. People, I'm more conservative than you guys will ever think of being. And then we get specific on the issues, and we say, no, you're a liberal.
Yeah.
I
remember back in 2020 talking to somebody about the Libertarian Party, and I'm like, well, no, the party's not libertarian. Well, it's a Libertarian Party. Yeah, but it just, it drains me. You know what I mean?
I know.
It's like, okay, they're not libertarian. And so when they come up with a candidate, you can almost guarantee that it's not a true libertarian. But again, the labels come and go, and they're, I think, mismatched on every level now. Conservative, whatever you know, progressive. Who was it the other day that said that the Democrats can no longer call themselves progressive? I forget who it was.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, well, the labels don't mean anything. You and I have always focused on the ideas.
We've never thought liberalism should be called progressive.
Yeah, right. Exactly. There is zero reason to call them progressive.
It's not like all of a sudden now they shouldn't be called progressive.
Right.
I don't know the last time they were progressive.
Right.
But that's why you and I have always stuck to here's where we stand on the issues. And we get specific as to why we stand on the issues.
Yeah.
The thing is, once you get involved in all the labels, then the labels define what you're saying, and it's not precise.
Right. Right, exactly.
When I tell you where I stand on the issues, that's precise. because we'll go through point by point by
that's
point
a great,
by
that's
point
a great
by point.
point, because if you're wearing the badge of whatever label it is, right? All right, yeah, but what constitutes the actual word on the badge? I mean, it doesn't break it down as to what the actual person believes. What do we hear? You and I have heard it. Anybody in our business has heard it for a long time. Well, I'm not. Well, your friend Bob. Early on. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. I'm not a. They don't want to. We see it with the no labels party and people who don't. Well, and I had a neighbor one time, a far left neighbor, and I liked the guy. I didn't have anything against him. We just disagreed. But he said to me one time, I'll never forget it. Well, I'm more of a libertarian. He didn't want to call himself a liberal.
Yeah.
Well, why not?
Yeah.
I didn't, I wouldn't get into the discussion with him. We're hanging out, in my front yard. I'm not going to get into a discussion and ask him, well, gee, Tim, what is it that makes you a libertarian? But I don't, because when we do what we do, it's about the conversation. It's about the discussion on the ideas. Does it matter what the label is for me or anybody else? That's not what earns you in that moment anything. By the way, the label doesn't earn you anything. If you think about like the intel leak, the possible intel leaks on the whole Iran thing, what's behind that? Is it just that there are so many Trump haters even in the intel community out there in the world? Or is it that is it also that everybody believes, if you think about it, in today's world, everybody has an opinion. Well, in the intel community, you don't get to have an opinion. You get to analyze. Your opinion is based on whatever you find. It's a fact-finding mission. But if you apply that, my opinion is you're not commander-in-chief. I think we shouldn't. You're not commander-in-chief. Unless you've got intel that Donald Trump was going to bomb the U.S. and, he was an actual traitor, your job is to deliver intel, and leaking should get you fully prosecuted based on the laws that apply. But the mindset behind that is, I'm going to be the hero because I think we should do this. Not just that they dislike Trump or disagree with Trump. It's that they think they're in the wheelhouse. You're not.
Yeah.
You don't get to be the driver here. And it's going on politically, on social media. And then they project who they are onto him. And I've said it before, it bears repeating here. Whatever you think applies to you in terms of, I don't know, your association with Donald Trump, you shouldn't take that to the point of conclusion, because at some point he's going to prove to you that the only person in the room in terms of any decision-making that matters is him. And that should, by the way, when you talk about commander-in-chief, it is up to him. I'm not saying this is as a slight. I'm not criticizing him. I'm saying that's who he is as an individual, and he's loyal to the people named Trump, and I threw in, and or currently married to Trump. That's where his loyalty, because he's been burned how many times?
Yeah.
How many times?
Yeah, he has. I find it weird. Now, I will say this: when I first became a talk show host, I didn't want to do it, and I was embraced by a lot of Republicans, and so in the past, I would campaign for certain Republicans. When it came to, well, you saw my transformation. You were there, really, one of the days where it really hit big time, when you and I were working together in 2005, and
Tom DeLay,
and it really started during the Bush administration when they were just spending, and I just didn't agree with it.
I thought we were going to be driven out of town during that period.
When I went after Tom DeLay, yeah.
Well, when we started criticizing Bush,
yeah. And so I stopped at that point, which is almost 20 years. I don't endorse people anymore. I don't do that. I don't want to be buddy-buddy with anybody. I really don't. I never was. I've always thought of myself as autonomous. I never wanted to be part. I never felt the need, and I wonder if there's a need to project that I'm more this person than you are. I
think there is.
I find there's.
I believe there is on every level.
I find there's some type of insecurity in that.
Yeah.
I voted for Trump 3 times, but if I disagree with him, I disagree with him. To sit there and be caught up, no, I'm MAGA, whatever that means, to me is just dumb. And you see how dumb it is by the blow up over the last couple of weeks. Now there's this contest, who's more MAGA than, and it's like, well, none of you are.
Well,
Trump
the left has the contest of who hates Trump more,
right.
And then on the right, it's who's more MAGA.
Right. And the only one who's MAGA is Trump.
Exactly.
And that's not an insult. That's not a criticism.
When I say
he's an individual who evolves, who changes his mind, like many people else out there, and to project yourself that you are more him than somebody else, I just find a ton of possible insecurity in that. Yes.
Matt Gaetz, when the day the Kevin McCarthy thing fell out, and the reporter right after talking to Matt Gaetz, have you talked to Trump? Yeah, just talked to him the other day. Were you aware that just a little while ago he posted on True Social that he doesn't agree with this? This isn't the way to handle it? You think you're in his corner and fighting for what he wants. You're fighting for what you want.
Right.
He fights for what he wants.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Wow, some NATO stuff I was trying to lay out, and I just didn't get to complete it, but we will following the top of the hour because we always find another branch to go off into.
We kind of do, yeah.
But the president, great success in immigration, great success. You look at I think the poll numbers will get better as, we move on and the ceasefire continues to last longer and people view it as a success. But also what happened at NATO yesterday.
Right.
Wait till you hear what the NATO chief said.
Yeah. Right.
Whoa.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here this morning, as always. You want to hear an interesting audio cut?
Always, yes.
The NATO Secretary General.
All right.
Yesterday.
Okay.
All right. The NATO meetings are starting.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Here we go. Listen to this.
It will also be a massive achievement in making NATO fairer. For decades, the United States sought to get Europe to truly step up. Now, European allies and Canada will equalize their defense spending with the United States. So let me salute President Trump's long-standing leadership in calling for NATO to increase defense spending. Today, I am pleased to announce that NATO has already added an additional $1 trillion in defense spending over the past decade. Mr. President, dear Donald, that is thanks to you pushing us. And tomorrow we will build on that foundation and add trillions more in defense spending.
Deep fake. I don't know who made that video, but it's not real. I'm not buying it.
Well, to back that up a little bit, Wall Street Journal, Jillian McCollum, he has Jillian, excuse me, she is a London-based member of the Wall Street Journal editorial board.
All right.
Okay. Support for Trump in a NATO frontline state. President Trump wants Americans' European allies to spend more on defense. So has every other recent president, but this one is expressing it in brutal ways. That's a quote from Estonia's foreign minister, Markus Šakna, which is fine with him. That's the position I like and Estonia likes. Really? Deepfake here?
Yeah.
You didn't pay? You're delinquent, Mr. Trump said during a February 2024 campaign rally. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them, the Russians, to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay. You got to pay your bills. The foreign minister from Estonia says Mr. Trump poses a rightful question. Why do U.S. people need to pay for European defense? If you see the figures, it's totally out of balance. The former and future president's remarks, that was back then, that's why they say former and future, back a year ago, rattled America's friends across the Atlantic. But in Estonia, the foreign minister says Mr. Trump's ultimatum has also given European leaders political cover to raise defense spending. On a strategic communications level, it gives us a lot of opportunity to say that he's not coming to help. Europe hit snooze after Russia invaded Georgia in 2008 and Ukraine in 2014. Even after Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022, the continent's initial response was lethargic. My question has been, and the Estonian question always, what does it take to wake up? The foreign minister said, I would have been more happy if it would have happened like 10 years ago. In January, Mr. Trump said NATO members should increase defense spending to 5% of gross domestic product. On Monday, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said the key deliverable of this week's summit would be a new defense investment plan that raises the benchmark to that level. He says NATO members want a fairer alliance in addition to a stronger and more lethal alliance. Earlier NATO announcements about the new 5% target suggests that 1.5% can go to defense and security-related projects like infrastructure, but 3.5% is for key military spending. On Monday, the Secretary General described a five-fold increase in air defense capabilities, thousands more tanks and armored vehicles, and millions of rounds of military ammunition among improvements. Unlike some of Mr. Trump's critics, Mr. Šakna does not view the U.S. as a fickle ally. There was a first part as well to the American president's ultimatum. The key word was if. Poland and the Baltic states were already pulling more than their weight, and next year Estonia will spend 5.4% GDP on its military. The foreign minister noted that during the notorious February Oval Office meeting between Trump and Zelensky, the U.S. president reiterated his commitment to the security of Poland and the Baltics. These assurances that they have said on all different levels to us, and we'll see as well the U.S. troops in the Baltic region. It goes on to talk about how complimentary he was of Trump. The other thing that he brought up, and I think it's great that he brought it up, is the more that the more money that you put in, for example, for your own defense, the more power you're going to want to ensure that since you're spending the money, that the defense money goes, that you want more of a say. It's not just the United States. If the United States is putting in all the money, they get all the say.
Yeah.
Or they get most of the say, or they have a bigger influence. If you are truly going to be NATO, the United States is still going to lead.
Right.
But lead is different than control. And if these countries put in more money, then they feel they get more of a say. They've got skin in the game, as they say.
Yep.
And so you look at when that's the best thing is the UN Secretary General said that, and you said that's not true. It's deep fake.
Deep fake.
But it shows you the influence of if you put the pressure on. The other thing is where he talked about Trump there. This is one of the reasons why for the life of us, we have no idea why former Trump surrogates now who thought he was an isolationist ever thought he was an isolationist.
Right.
When he's talking about Poland and the Baltics and our allies and the important things that we have to do, Trump realizes that, yeah, we're the leader. But you guys, we want your input, and your input means we want your money too. We're stronger if everybody is contributing to the defense of NATO.
Well, that's it. And when you think about it, the people that projected this isolationist kind of, or not kind of, but the isolationist label onto him, when you go back, and we've talked about it, how many years he's been saying this, other countries have to pay their own way. It's not just them on the merits of that point paying their own way. It's that they have to be pushed into their responsibility into all of this as well, and it makes us all stronger when that happens. As long as you want to carry the kids will stay at home.
Yep. Kids don't want to get involved. We
Nope.
got no skin in the game.
Hey, we don't. Why? Where's my credit card, Dad? Come on. What's going on here? Nope. You pay your own way. You have responsibility, and it also makes the alliance stronger. That's not isolationism. That's creating a stronger alliance. And look, I think he's different from other presidents when it comes to war in that he wants to go in, do a job. Soleimani is an example. ISIS is an example in eastern Afghanistan in 2017, and, of course, this past weekend. Go in, do the job, reassess. We don't have to put boots on the ground. When we come in with massive power to do the job, then we reassess. If we need to, we'll do it again. And then you stay out of it. You're not going to fight Israel's war, and I think if there was any question about that yesterday, probably answered a lot of those questions about him getting Bibi on the phone saying, you pull those planes back. Because the agreement was, we're going to go in, we're going to bomb them, we're going to do what you can't do because you don't have B-2s. And when we're done, we're out, and you're going to de-escalate. And that seems to be accurate. I can't tell you for sure if that was the agreement, but I can tell you that certainly sounds like it based on the president's words yesterday and what he did in calling Israel and saying, call this latest bombing of Iran off. It was very clear. And I think, by the way, as many people were surprised by us bombing Iran on Saturday night, that, oh my gosh, he actually did it. I think there was some probably reassessment yesterday, too, in how he showed that, because if there had been, no ceasefire, I wondered how it was going to go when we left here yesterday morning. Clearly, there wasn't a ceasefire in place, or they weren't abiding by it. If there was, neither side. And then later that morning, the president comes out and throws down the gauntlet on Israel and says, "Hey, bring those planes back." Well, I think that likely has an impact on a lot of people looking at this saying, "Oh my gosh, he's actually in control of the situation and being thoughtful with every step in this situation," when many in the world didn't think he was capable of doing that.
When you had I did see a question that was asked yesterday. I thought it was a pretty decent question. I don't know what the answer is, but it was like, why is Qatar doing our negotiations?
Right.
Why are we trusting Qatar?
Right.
That was a great point. I went,
no, I
because
exactly.
you and I were talking yesterday at this time. What was the deal that was made? What did the foreign minister or what did the president and emir of Qatar? I mean, the United States wasn't involved in those negotiations,
right?
So you believe what they tell them. Was it completely accurate? And did you see too? The president said what we had said yesterday when they was talking about. But because he said it was more mad at Israel, and they're like, well, why is that? And it's like when Iran shot missiles.
Oh,
and he made the case that because there's been so much destruction in the government, it was the point that we made that you've got the government may not be working in unison in Iran. Nobody may be in control. There may be a general saying, shoot these missiles off, but the Ayatollah didn't tell him to do it. Right. There was no mass approval. There was no leadership of the military approval because they're not communicating, and so many of them are dead.
It was one, and he made the point, one or two missiles that never even landed because you were able to intercept them.
Right. So but it was when I saw that where he goes, they're fractured over there. I went, that's a great point. But then the point came up, well, if they're fractured, why is Qatar doing who is Qatar talking to?
Mm-hmm.
And we asked that question too.
Right.
Who are they talking to? Who's in charge? Trump sort of made that case.
Yep.
And I thought it was interesting because we had just speculated on it.
And I think it's part of, of likely part of what he was having the conversation with when it comes to Israel. We need time to pull back, let the dust settle. Iran, we don't believe Iran right now in this moment is a threat to Israel. So there needs to be time for intel to work, Mossad, U.S. intel, global intel to work, and determine where Iranian leadership is right now. We need that dust to settle. It won't as long as you guys are going in. But I think that's more. I think more importantly, he was focused on, again, if it's accurate and true what he said to them going in. Okay, we'll do the bombing because you don't have B-2s. But after that, you guys we're going to work out a ceasefire. We're going to de-escalate. And that was never reported, by the way, in the media, because he wasn't going to let any of that out until after the fact. Now, he hasn't talked about that himself. So I can't tell you what's accurate and true, but based on his actions in the last few days, it seems like it's the case. We know for sure he doesn't want the war going on, and he was furious at Israel yesterday.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. Once a roadside inspection is completed, the officer will close it out, which involves the officer writing or typing up the report. The more the officer found during the inspection, the longer this will take. If violations were discovered, most officers, as a courtesy, will explain the violations to the driver. If there were any out-of-service violations, the officer will normally explain what must be done to get the out-of-service order lifted. Drivers need to be very attentive during this part of the inspection. The driver also needs to read and understand the complete inspection report. After receiving the inspection report, the driver has 24 hours to get the roadside inspection report to the motor carrier. If the driver will not be returning to a company facility within the next 24 hours, the driver needs to know to get it on the way to you via email, mail, or fax within 24 hours. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. It's time for my Congresswoman update. Jasmine Crockett drops out of race for top House Oversight Committee.
This is one of the reasons you don't endorse anymore.
Apparently, she got the fewest votes.
Yeah.
Jasmine Crockett has bowed out of the race to become the top Democrat on a key committee that is currently probing former President Joe Biden's mental decline. You saw they interviewed the first person yesterday, the House Oversight Committee.
Right.
She was gunning to become the next ranking member, title given to the senior member of the minority party on the House Oversight Committee. It was clear by the numbers that my style of leadership is...
All right.
Do I have to go any further?
No.
Can we move on to the next topic?
No.
Let me just say that again. It was clear by the numbers that my style of leadership...
I'm sorry, that's leadership? Is it?
Is not exactly what they were looking for.
Oh.
The fact that she believes she has a style of leadership
I know.
is hilarious in itself.
Right. Style of leadership. Leadership, you say?
Wow.
Tell me more. Well, we've been talking about, how people apply labels incorrectly. Well, some on the left are applying a lot of words incorrectly.
In a vote by Democrats and the panel Monday night, Crockett and two others lost to Representative Robert Garcia of California. Crockett signaled she came in last of the four.
All right, then.
Telling reporters they were clear that I was the one that made the least sense in their minds. I accept that.
Does
and I
she really?
think that you have to make sure that you're going to be able to work with leadership if you are going to be going into a leadership position.
Yeah, okay. Uh-huh.
She promised to still be loud and proud.
Okay. All right, fine.
I can't believe she's my congressperson.
Yeah, you should call her and tell her you're not happy.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. The show's getting in the way of my reading.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let me continue here. I'll just read it out loud, all right?
All right,
I was just reading an article here.
Sure.
Former NBC News host Chuck Todd wondered on Monday if the media were sold a 40-year bill of goods about former President Joe Biden being a family man during a discussion about Biden's decision to run for re-election. Hey, Governor Abbott vetoed the pot bill. It's still legal. Can someone bring me some stuff?
Yeah.
So I can live in a world of delusion and hallucinations?
Yeah.
So I can join it too? I can't in this current sober state.
Well, it's what's interesting is,
good God,
everyone in the liberal activist media that lost their jobs, including Chuck Todd, now they're doing their own, what does he call it? The Toddcast.
No, is it
Yeah,
really?
the Chuck Toddcast.
Oh, it is the Chuck Toddcast. It
Toddcast.
is. Oh, golly.
Wow, that's certainly clever. And they, what they're looking to do is like make the name for themselves. Like it's they're trying to build their own brand. And what do they have to do on the left to build their own brand? In this case, separate ourselves from Biden. So not only was he part of building that out when he was at Meet the Press and NBC and MSNBC, Chuck Todd, but now on the same level of Jake Tapper and, and others that are, oh, well, maybe, and he's going even further. Maybe we were sold a whole bill of, think about this. Think about saying this out loud.
I know.
Gary, I think we were sold a bill of goods for 40 years. I'd be so embarrassed by the time I got to 40.
Well,
I would turn the mic off and quit.
Well, because it shows you were supposedly a journalist. You didn't question a damn thing, and all of a sudden,
sold a bill of goods by who?
After covering this for 40 years,
we were lied to.
40-year bull of goods.
Bull of goods. It may have been a bowl, and I can tell you what it was filled with, and it's the kind of bowl you flush when you're done.
I read that yesterday, and I'm just like, I can't stand it anymore. I just can't stand it. I can't handle it.
Because you really have to walk yourself through what he said. I'm wondering if the media, including, which means me, I'm wondering if I was sold a bill of goods for 40 years. Not in one conversation, not during one political campaign. By the way, did you guys hear? Because I was sold a bill of goods on Kamala Harris that she wanted an open border. But after I saw her ad, she clearly is stronger on the border than Donald Trump. See, we were being sold a bill of goods from the right. Think about saying that out loud. There is zero self-awareness in that moment, or maybe altogether in every moment with him. Sold a bill of goods for 40 years, because then you break it down. Whoa, Chuck. Let's explore that. Sold by who?
By the way, I'm sitting over here really enjoying just watching your hands in the air. And,
I was just flailing my hands.
Because,
I was just doing
because I'm like
Tim Walsh thing.
I'm sort of out of words for this, and you're not, so you keep going, because I'm looking at this story.
Because
you stop it.
Because that's it. Sold a bill of goods. Well, no. Who does the selling?
Yeah.
Biden is the product. You guys were the sellers.
Yeah. You were selling it. Well,
it was the liberal activist
media. They bought it and then sold
it. They
did
took
both.
They took the water and went out and sold it to the American people. It has to get to the Joe Biden doesn't have his own news network.
Well, it's almost as if Chuck Todd he's sitting there, and it's a victimization discussion, with Jake Tapper, that we basically were both victimized by this guy, and we didn't realize it. We never questioned a damn thing.
Right.
It's when you and I when it got to be when the Democrats realized we can't defend him on the influence peddling.
Right.
And then it got to be, well, he might have been fooled, but it's just he was doing it for Hunter because he loved his family. This was all about remember how we used to mock it over and over again? You're telling me Chuck Todd didn't hear that at that time? That he didn't know that was a criticism and never investigated to find out whether it was true or not? He just sat there and, I just believed everything that Joe Biden ever told me because we never caught him in a lie. You mean when he said the border was secure?
Sold a bill of goods.
When he said the border was fine, you were okay with it? When Democrats and the Biden administration when they were talking about the fact that men could be women if they said so, and men should compete against women in sports. You never questioned it. It was Wesley Hunt that said, the whole radical transgender movement, that's it right there. It's what we said years ago.
Yeah.
It's if you believe that, if you're trying to sell me that, I question anything you're trying to sell me because that's such insanity. It doesn't pass the sanity test, which means I have to question whether you're sane on any other issues. But for Chuck Todd, they're trying to become victims here. We were victims.
We were lied to for 40 years. We bought it for 40 years. Biden told us, and hook, line, and sinker, we were in.
What?
Why not just take out an ad?
Be a man.
Why not just take out an ad, full-page ad, New York Times, your face, and above it, I'm a moron. I mean, I don't know why in the world. I do know why they're trying to do it, but here's the difference. When you have a Toddcast, he's probably filming that on his phone and posting it himself. In other words, he doesn't have a meeting with other people. But even when they do, sitting around the room thinking about that. All right, guys, I think today in my discussion with my guests, I'm going to talk about how I think we were sold a bill of goods that Joe Biden, for 40 years, that Joe Biden was a family man. Because I'm starting to think that's not true. Call it gut instinct. But I'm starting to think something is fishy here. Wow. Seriously.
I know.
It's just, but that's, again, the effort is clearly. All right, we've got to make ourselves victims. Jake Tapper. We started writing this book the day after the election. Really? You mean when pretty much everybody else said for a long time, by then, it was a matter of years that we were all saying there are cognitive issues with Joe Biden and there's a cover-up going on inside the White House. Then you decided the day after the election, gee, I've got to cover my own backside here. And now, again, as you point out, Gary, how do we make ourselves the victims? Well, not only were we lied to in the election season and during his presidency, but for 40 years. Well, you're a moron.
Well, actually, your job as a journalist is to assume
to not believe anything.
Is right. You don't believe anything,
right?
And unless it's so self-evident. There are things that are self-evident. You know, if a journalist says the sun is up this morning, well, yeah, that's self-evidence. I can believe it, but I question. I question just because I want the full story on everything, and I know if I just hear one audio cut, I probably don't have the full story. But where he said to Jake Tapper, you and I covered for most of our professional lives, the story of Joe Biden was this guy cared about his family so much. He commuted home every night from Washington. He said during his podcast, the Chuck Toddcast, Todd spoke to CNN host Jake Tapper about Biden while discussing Biden's book, Tapper's book, Original Sin, which is about the former president's decision to run for re-election and the cover-up of his decline while in office. Mm-hmm. You know what else you could say is this man was so ambitious that after his family went through that tragedy, he commuted every day to work, and it's the same story. I sit here, I look at this, and I think, were we sold a 40-year bill of goods? No. Wow. You're a political activist.
You didn't question.
Right.
You're not a journalist. You took that information and you decided to go sell it to the American people. It's not that you bought it or didn't buy it. It's that you were going to take it and sell it to the American people. You created that. Without the media, Joe Biden gets nothing.
And when when he says this, where we sold a 40-year bill of goods, number one, you're a political activist, and you know exactly what you were doing. But I think they think they probably look at it out there and they see the mail that they get, the emails that they get, and it has to be 100 to 1 saying, you were a tool of the Biden administration. You're a political activist. You're not a journalist. So the only way that you can get out of it is you were lied to.
Yep.
You're trying to build credibility back somehow for your podcast or do whatever.
I'm a victim.
So you're trying to say, I've been in the media for decades and I didn't know that everyone else knew it. Everyone else knew it, but I didn't know it because they sold me a bill of goods, and this makes me a victim. I'm not a political activist. I'm a victim. Shut up.
Yeah. And
what a wimp.
And still pretend to be an independent thinking journalist.
Yeah.
Stop. Otherwise, SNL will take your Toddcast and just use it as a skit. I mean, seriously, you don't have to change anything. Toddcast. Wow. Yeah, it's really.
But Jake Tapper was doing the same thing, trying to make himself out to a. Well, I realized I might have missed. You're a political activist. Stop it.
Right.
God, I mean, have the guts to admit what you did for a living and what you still do for a living.
But, the good thing is, as you pointed out time and time again, Tapper did write the book. If his goal is to write the book to show that, I don't know, he's an independent thinking journalist, that makes me laugh. And does he do a Tapper cast and portray himself as a victim? It's still, if the book is accurate and true, is still telling about what was going on during the Biden White House. If Chuck Todd wants to follow that thought here on his Toddcast, hey, Chuck, write the book. Go back, do some investigation over the last 40 years and tell us everything. You tell us everything Joe Biden lied about. Now, we already know.
Yeah, it'll help destroy your credibility more as it did Jake Tapper.
And, you won't have any debate anymore. There won't be any debate about who Joe Biden is. Wow.
That
40 years.
That was a story where
bill of goods.
I came close to vomiting.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. 866. Well, no, I'm not. 866 mental vomiting.
Yeah,
866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app now. Why? Our show ends in a little over an hour, and when our show ends, our podcast begins. That's because we record all 5 hours of the show, and after our show is over, our show becomes a podcast. So you can listen at any time if you've missed portions of the show, because we get that from people that say, I missed that. Go listen to the podcast.
Yeah, and we're not going to sell you a bill of goods. Why is he talking like he's 90, by the way? And show me a bill of goods.
Chuck Todd.
Yeah. Say it, Chuck. Lied.
Could you imagine coming on our show and trying to convince our listeners that we're victims of something?
Gary, I can't believe, because 40 years is almost as long as I've been in radio. I've been in radio 41 years. Gary, for 41 years, I'm starting to think people lied to me. It's not what I thought it was.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.